Okay, I hope everybody had enough time to get their drinks so we could get started. But the bar is going to be open the whole time in the back. That's Kelly back there. Kelly, give a big wave. In the red, Kelly. Okay, our staff down here is amazing. Got Kelly and Jenny back there, so thank you, girls. My name's Ted. I run the Omaha REIA with my wife, Jessica. Just want to go over some basic announcements we have while you guys are taking your seats. A couple things it's important to know is sponsors. So I always say it, sponsors are the biggest reason we're able to keep the prices where we keep them. And we have two new sponsors that are providing benefits to you guys. So we want to give a shout out to them. A1 Kitchen and Bath, granite flooring cabinets. I don't know about you guys, but I've used them on every project I've had prior to this. They are giving a 10% discount to all members. So they're a new gold sponsor. So thank you to A1. The rep that we are working with down here, her name's Allie Laparco. If you need her contact information, we have that, and it'll also be on the Omaha REIA page also. Also, we have a new resource sponsor, Phoenix Restoration. Jenny Castinda is giving a 10% discount to Phoenix Restoration. If you have any flood issues, water damage, mold, mildew, that's what they take care of. So thank you to Jenny with Phoenix Restoration. Nice thing about them is they've actually been sponsoring our golf outing for the last few years, and we've had the privilege of working with them hand in hand as a sponsor already. So that's an awesome add to the group. Also, want to give a shout out to our sponsors tonight. Tonight, we have Ben Harrell with Safe Exit. He's got that beautiful display back there, and I was actually super jealous when I saw that because I was like, I need that for the REIA. But Ben, you want to come up here and give a few words about your business and tell people what you do and who you are? It's got a little crack-a-lack to it, doesn't it?
Thank you. My company's name is Safe Exit Egress. Safe Exit Egress Window Company. We do a lot of different things: drain tile, drains, of course, replacement of window wells, custom window wells, anything you can think of that you want, like beautiful water scenery pictures or whatever you want to look at. We can do anything custom like that. I mean, I guess if you want to waste your money. But the biggest thing about my window is it actually opens like a refrigerator door inside the house. So if you ever try to get out of your windows, you can always notice that you can't get out. I'm a small guy, and in a crank window, I barely can squeeze past it to go up a window well. With my windows, there's nothing on the outside of the house. You open it in the inside of the house by one handle, like a refrigerator door, and you just push the screen and go. So it's very easy, functional, and safe. A couple months ago, Nebraska Fire and Safety, the fire chief and all them had a display thing going on, and they were talking about my window and how safe it is, and they love my design of window because people can actually get out of the house before people can't get past that crank window. So love to show people different things, and we always give out gift certificates and stuff like that for referrals. So even if you guys don't need anything, always remember to tell some other people and send you guys some referral money. So thank you.
Appreciate it, man. It's one of the biggest value adds you can do your investment properties. If you find a 2-bedroom and there's opportunity to add another bedroom or two to the basement, you do legally have to have an egress in those spaces. So now you can talk to your local realtor, find out the ARV, and price that difference out if it is the value that you want to get out of it. Plus, if it's a rental, it's a safety thing. But for us flippers, it's a big value add, or just renter to have rentals. This one's not good, huh? Dennis is like, let me switch you. Test. Just check. There we go. Woo! Wake up. Also, thank you, JM. JM flies out all the way from Atlanta to meet with our group. They said it's one of the best groups they're working with. So JM Real Estate Capital, definitely talk to those guys. Dave's here today. I don't know where Dave went, but go chat with those guys. They got a lot going on. I'm working a deal out with them right now myself. Normally I give away a book. I'm gonna be honest with you, I forgot the book on my desk. But if it's like, it happens once every year or two. But if somebody brought a book they want to recycle, let me know. We'll put it into the giveaway, but we'll skip that today. Couple announcements. Also, if you haven't checked out our podcast, we did have somebody local on the podcast, Tanner Gordon. It's a 2-part episode. Part 2 will be going on tomorrow. He is a local contractor. He's actually a sponsor of the REIA, and with New Image Construction. He's doing 4 projects for me right now, and I've had a very good experience with him. He's also kind of fixed some issues I've been having with the city, so luckily I got past that. But he's a one-off. What is this? Oh, there we go. It's fancy. Definitely check out REIA Radio because Tanner's he just killed it. And he's going to do a construction podcast with Denless he's working on right now. So should be fun and see what he does. If you haven't checked out the podcast, the best thing you can do for us, I say it every time because it's a huge deal for us, give us a review, give us a 5-star. It helps us with the ratings and reviews. It's a big deal for us. Special thank you to the staff at the Holiday Inn. Again, Kelly and Jenny back there. If you guys are ordering food, remember your number on your table. Also, show them your REIA member card, and you get 25% off your meal tonight. So take advantage of that tonight or at the after party. And then if you had too much fun at the after party, $99 gets you a room for the night. So take advantage of that. You already got free parking, and go from there. Oh, by the way, did anybody not scan the code for free parking? I mentioned this earlier a little bit. So there's a QR code out there. You scan it, put that you're in room 1. The code is REIAG for guest, and you get free parking. They do ticket every single month. I get 1 or 2 people reach out to me that they got tickets. So take advantage of that and get the free parking. Upcoming events, all this stuff should be on your tables. And there's additional overflow stuff in the back corner at the resource table. But we have the Omaha REIA Luncheon. It's at the Railcar, 144th and Blondo, August 18th, 11:30 to 1. Quick announcement on that. They are doing a big remodel of that room right now. They are 90% sure it's going to be ready for me. But if it's not, make sure that you're checking out our Facebook page, and we'll post it everywhere we possibly can. But if there is a change of venue, we will give you as much notice as they give us. Also, that same day on August 18th is a REIA Now Zoom call. That's for all your members. You are part of the National REIA, and National REIA does have a event like this, but it's 4:00 Central Time, and it's on Zoom. You do have to register for it. If you go to omahareia.com, there go to the calendar, and on that calendar event, you just click it, and you do have to register for it there. They'll send you the link for the event. They do have speakers from all around the country too, so it's like a 2-hour event, just so you guys know. Next month, this is a big deal for us. Sorry, I'll give this back, I promise. This flyer right here that's on your guys' table. Dennis, myself, and Owen Dashner have been doing a podcast called REIA Radio, like I mentioned earlier, and we are celebrating 100 episodes in 2 years next month. So thank you to you guys for all your support. Appreciate that. Give me goosebumps with that. So with that, anybody that's been on the podcast, we're going to personally invite to come back. The big national ones, it's going to be harder to get them there. Let's just be honest. But most of our podcast has been the locals, and I think those are the people that you want to see. Because when I look at the reviews, when I look at the top 10 all-time listened to podcasts, besides Brandon Turner and Chase, everybody was local. So that kind of says something right there. You guys are loving those stories. So everybody that's been on the podcast, we're going to do a personal invite to come back. We got some swag that we're going to give them to entice them to come back. We are going to do a live cast. Everybody that has ever been on the podcast, we're going to do a quick little 5-minute or less update, like little video shorts. And we're going to interview them up here for you all to hear. And we're going to go in chronological order on who's been on the podcast. So if you were just on last week, you're going to have to wait to the very end. But there's a few of you guys that were definitely in the top 20 when we were doing this. So we're just going to do a quick recap, see where they're at. And then we're going to invite all of our sponsors that we have for REIA to be here, and we're going to set those up in booths around the room. So all of our gold and silver sponsors will fill in the room. Any additional room will kind of go down, and we'll take it into the hallway and into the outside. will be kind of like cocktail tables and open seating. It will be the concept. So it'll be completely different next month, but it should be a lot of fun. So that's the goal. So Tuesday, September 5th. And then we will have the 3rd annual Omaha REIA and Real Estate Meetup charity golf outing, and that's benefiting Omaha Home for Boys. It's $125 a person, $500 for teams. So you can write this off on your businesses as long as you got an LLC. Take advantage of it. Sponsorships. We're looking for sponsors for this. This is how we make all the money for the kids. Marty McGuire and Corey Kutchell putting this all together. He went to go pay for his parking, didn't he? Marty, do you want to talk about the golf outing real quick? So Marty is one of our sponsors. He owns and operates Blackstone Insurance. Here, come up here so you're on the screen. And so Marty, thank you for being a sponsor, and thanks for putting this together. Give him a round of applause. Could you guys? Marty's put this together every year for us, so here we go.
Thank you, guys. So they're putting a link up on the screen. Yeah, so we changed the date. Sorry about this, but we initially had it set for this week, and we were getting really low turnout. I think probably because of back to school and maybe people trying to squeeze in last minute, summer vacations and stuff like that. So we moved it back to September 13th. It's going to be at Stone Creek Golf Course, $125 per golfer. And we have some sponsorship opportunities if interested. There's a link on the little handouts, but you can go there to register to golf or to be a sponsor. And this year we're benefiting Omaha Home for Boys again, just like last year. Last couple of years, it's been a blast, guys. It's been a really good time. Everybody seems to have a lot of fun. And, as long as we get a lot of good hole sponsors out there, T-box sponsors, helping people out, making sure they can make it to the next hole without falling over, it'll be good time. So we'd love to see you guys out there. It's for a good cause. We've raised about $15,000 a year the last couple of years for good causes. So we'd love to see you guys out there. Let's have a good time. Cool.
If you intend to golf or you already signed up for golfing, can you raise your hand just so we know who will be out there? Who's going to be out there golfing? Can you raise them high so we can see you? Are you kidding me? This is all we're going to have for golfers? I see another hand. Should I do an auction on the golfing? There's a hand. Love to see your support. And if you know somebody who could benefit and sponsor, please reach out to them. Also, we have Jeff Beals. He's going to be speaking on October 3rd, Unlocking Omaha's Investment Potential. We invite Jeff back every single year. He's going to talk specifically on growth and development of Omaha, Nebraska, the areas that are coming up and the areas that you should be investing in. Jeff's a personal friend of mine for my whole life. And I think that he's got a lot of content that is very, very important. I stress this is not one I would miss. Generally, this is one of our lower turnout events when we have. But I'm gonna tell you what, Jeff is. He speaks. He just got done speaking in London. So, and he helps big corporations out. He's a vice president of NIMP Dodge commercial division. He's got the Grow Omaha radio show. It's definitely not one you want to miss. So definitely check out when Jeff is here. But without any further ado, I've kept you guys late. Paul's here, but give you guys a little background about Paul. It's my pleasure to introduce a man who is, well, he resonates profoundly in the realm of real estate. He's kind of the man, the myth, the legend, really, right? A man with exceptional caliber. He has navigated vast territories from Washington to West Virginia, educating, empowering, and inspiring real estate professionals. He has successfully transitioned from serving in the nation as the U.S. Coast Guard to serving our community, nurturing over 900 sales agents and 60 employees at the Nebraska Realty. He is the author of 2 insightful books in real estate and currently sits on the board of directors for the Omaha Property Management Company. Our speaker tonight is a mentor, a leader, a real estate wizard, and most importantly, a passionate educator. His knowledge, experience, and the dedication to fostering growth and success in others have earned him the respect and admiration across the country. Tonight, he will unveil the secrets of legal wholesaling in Nebraska, an opportunity that we're all excited about, especially me. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in extending a warm welcome to our esteemed guest and Senior Vice President of Nebraska Realty and Director of Randall School of Real Estate, Paul Vojchehoske.
Fancy. I did not write that. I swear to God, I didn't. So true golf story. I will not be golfing. So in 2007, at that time, I worked for Deeb Realty. It was our Deeb golf outing, and I ended up knocking an attorney out on the golf course. So, I mean, literally, he tried to run me over with his golf cart because he was drunk, and I punched him and thought I killed him. I haven't golfed since, so you don't have to edit that. So.
If it makes you feel any better, I took a window out last time I was golfing. I knocked on it, and it was a member of the REIA and it was a rental property.
Oh, yeah. Oh boy. Can y'all hear me back there? Okay. Must want to make sure that I'm good here. So, so tonight, actually, just so y'all know too, Phil Rich and Bud Thompson, stand up, please, if you would, real quick. Come on, be recognized. They are my security tonight. The last time I was invited, remember, I'm just the messenger here. And the last time I was invited for a month later, I was getting hate calls and everything else. I have no dog in this fight. I don't do wholesaling. I don't judge anybody that does. I'm really just here to purvey the new rules and regulations. And I want to try to bridge the gap between the real estate agent that you have to work with and yourself as the investor. This is really a 50-50 speech. It's now a 3-hour continuing ed class for real estate professionals. And I was actually shocked at how many wholesale transactions there are that are being done. Some good news, though, since the law went into effect, I talked to Director Lemon at the Real Estate Commission, and they have sent out several cease and desist to the national companies that were really abusing things. If there was ever companies that were predatory in nature, it was like the T-Squareds and some of the other ones that were They were really, it was bad. And I'm glad to see that for a lot of reasons. But there are a lot of people that are doing this and they're doing it the right way. And so I want to bridge the gap between what you have to comply with. So as you know, LB 892 was passed last year. That was the statutory part and went into effect in July. And then it took the Real Estate Commission about 7 or 8 months to actually write the rules and regulations around that. And the last time I was here, the statute had passed, but there were no rules and regulations, and we didn't know how to move forward, and now we do. And then after I'm done with the presentation, we are going to do Q&A. So you should have a packet, and I want to just go through this packet real quickly. The first 4 pages is the check sheet. This check sheet is going to be very important for you, the wholesaler, because you're going to have to provide certain documentation to your real estate agent that you are required to hire to market this property. We'll get to that. That's the first 4 pages. This is also very valuable for the real estate agents because failure to have any of these items on here is an individual license law violation. And make no mistake about it, the Real Estate Commission is waiting for the opportunity to start bringing people down. If you continue to go through your packet on page 5 there is a form at the top. It says agency disclosure information for buyers and sellers. If you're not a real estate agent, you won't know what this is or what it's for, but the agents will. Then the next page, this is a brand new form. This is an addendum to that agency disclosure form. It's called Agency Disclosure Assignability Contract Addendum. This one here does bring some consternation from the wholesaling community when the agent has to present this to your property owner. Then we have the property owner's consent to market and advertise. We'll talk about that. And then we have the Nebraska Real Estate Commission Seller Property Condition Disclosure Statement. And I will discuss how that applies to these transactions. And then the lead-based paint statement. And then last but not least, because I get this question a lot. Just so you know, before I get to the question, the statute that was passed, the actual statute itself, said that if you're going to sell equitable title or equitable interest in a contract, then you must use a real estate professional or fall under the for sale by owner exemption. So if you own your own house, you have legal title, you don't have to hire a real estate agent. You can sell it by yourself. It's called the for sale by owner or the FSBO exemption in the license law. I think we all assumed, and the way that the statute was written, that all wholesalers would also have that same exemption. But the Attorney General's office, who is the attorney for the Real Estate Commission, when they started looking at it, there is a Supreme Court case, and it's Choice Homes LLC versus Donner. I gave you the first page of the opinion. If you want to download it and read it, you can. But there was some language in here, and the language mentioned the fact that when someone is selling equitable title or equitable interest in a contract, then it must be listed for sale with a real estate broker authorized to do business in Nebraska. That is the reason why that you must, if you're a wholesaler, you must list the property, or list that, not the property, the equitable title in that contract with a real estate broker. It's not the statute, it's not the regulation itself. The regulation is only following the court case. So they're really, that's the story behind that, because that's probably the number one question that I get. So on the very first page, though, if you would go back to page 1, I have a diagram up there that is a basic structure of a wholesale transaction. We're not going to get into the nuts and bolts of a wholesale transaction, but it'll be helpful as we move on for referencing this. Now, you'll notice that there is the property owner in this diagram, and then there is the wholesaler. It is perfectly legal for the wholesaler to go out and engage property owners to try to get that property under contract via a purchase agreement. There is no requirement to use a real estate professional. There's no requirement to hire an attorney. You can do that, and you can negotiate the terms, and then you can get the purchase agreement signed, and you're legally allowed to do that. But at that point, that's when it ends. Because the next step is you want to start marketing your equitable title to potential buyers, right? So license law defines marketing is basically anything. The word of mouth. If you send a text to somebody, I know another question I get all the time is, well, I'm a wholesaler and I have this huge list of pre-existing investors and other people that buy these things that was pre-existing before the law. Why can't I call or text them and let them know about my inventory? And the reason is because license law, which is state statute, requires for you, that's considered marketing under license law, and that means that only an agent can do that. So that's where the rubber hits the road, if you will. So you're free to go out and negotiate, but once you enter into that contract, now you have to hire a real estate professional to then list that equitable title for sale. And then you can find the end buyer or the assignee and do your business. Notice that there's a little arrow that goes from wholesaler to the end buyer or the assignee. And below that, I have an assignment contract. One of the ways that some of the wholesalers thought they could get around this requirement is, instead of using an assignment contract, they would just write up a separate purchase agreement between the end buyer and the wholesaler. Two things you have to know, instead of using just a traditional assignment contract, and I'm assuming most of you know what I'm talking about here. So as far as the contracts, two issues with that. Number one, it does not relieve you from the regulations and the requirements. And number two, actually it took me 4 months, but I actually was able to speak to a Consumer Finance Protection Bureau enforcement officer, commonly known as a CFPB officer. And we were discussing it, and he said that is definitely what's called a dual contract. And under the Dodd-Frank Act, that is a felony. Anytime you have one property and two different purchase prices, that is considered a dual contract. So think about this. Your contract between the property owner and yourself as the wholesaler, you enter into that contract for $100,000, and then the end buyer is going to pay $150,000, and they go to the bank to get a $150,000 loan. That's one property, two contracts, two different purchase price. That is a dual contract situation. Now, it only applies if there's lending, if they're going to borrow the money. If it's a cash deal, then they would, according to him, he would not have jurisdiction. So if the end buyer is cash buyer, then the dual contract would not apply, according to him. I'm not an attorney, but that's what he said. So, all right. So I want to back up here and assume we're going to play a little game here, I guess, role playing. I'm going to assume that you're a wholesaler and you went out and you procured a purchase agreement with a property owner, and now you want to go out and market your equitable title in this contract, and you want to do it the right way to stay in compliance with the law. Now, there's a lot of things that are going to have to happen, and a lot of things you as the wholesaler are going to have to provide your real estate agent. And what this checklist is for not only you as the wholesaler to provide the information, but also for the agents to stay out of real estate jail. And by the way, expect that probably a high percentage of all of these files are going to be audited by the Nebraska Real Estate Commission when they come by your broker's office every 6 months to a year. That's kind of the word on the street. We'll find out, but that's the word on the street. So the first contract that we're going to deal with after you the wholesaler, you have your purchase contract, is you're going to go out and hire one of the great real estate agents that are here in this room. Ted told me to hire him, and screw all of you, but I told him no, I'd have to make it fair and equitable here. So anyways, the first thing we're going to do, the wholesaler and the real estate agent is going to enter into a listing contract, and that listing contract is just like a normal deal. You have a seller, the property owner, and you enter into that contract to market their property for sale. Well, what you're doing is entering into this listing contract with the real estate agent to market and sell your equitable title in the contract. That's the first document that we have in our portfolio of things. The next one is, and this is mostly for agents, don't forget your agency disclosure. By the way, how many licensed agents are there in the room? Okay, good. If you're not a licensed agent, this part you might not know, but as you know, one of the questions prior to the rules and regulations is, if you list it with an agent, who does the agent represent? Is the wholesaler the client? Is the property owner? If the wholesaler is the client, does the property owner have to sign the listing contract? We didn't have those answers, but we do now. So when the listing contract is entered into with the wholesaler and the agent, real estate agents, you are the licensee and the wholesaler is your client. You are the limited seller agent for the wholesaler. That's who you represent. So that means all your fiduciary duties belong to the wholesaler. But here's one other thing that you have to do, and this gets a little bit, the wholesalers get really cranky when we get to this point. There's two additional things that the listing agent has to do. Number one, they have to go to your property owner, the property owner that you have a contract with, and they must provide them the agency disclosure. So if you would just turn one page over, and you're going to see a copy of agency disclosure information for buyers and sellers. Your agent's going to present this to you, the wholesaler, when the listing contract is going to be entered into, and you are the client and they are your limited seller's agent. Well, this listing agent, after they sign the listing contract, has to go to the property owner, and then you have to, as the agent, present this agency disclosure to them, and it is a customer relationship only. You cannot make them a client. If you do, that's a license law violation. So the property owner is a customer only. Now, what happens if the property owner gives you the middle finger and says that I'm not going to sign this? No big deal. Then all you do as the agent is you make a notation on this form, on this disclosure, the date and time it was presented, and just simply write on there that they refused to sign it. There's no obligation. The obligation is for you, the agent, to present it to the property owner. Now, here is where some of the wholesalers have a problem. They want to present this form on your behalf, and that is a license law violation. You have to present it. That's even if in the purchase contract, there's waivers in there and all of that, none of it applies to the license law. Okay? And then there's one other form that the listing agent must present to the property owner. And if you go a couple of pages back, it's called the Agency Disclosure Assignable Addendum. Everybody see that one? It's an addendum to the agency disclosure. This must be presented At the same time that the agency disclosure is presented, it must be presented to the property owner by the licensee. And it basically, if you read through it, I won't read through it, but it just says that this is an assignment of contract. It's not, you're not being offered legal title. You need to consult with an attorney if you have any questions. But if you look kind of midway down, there are two boxes here. And you'll notice one that says to be completed by the property owner only. And they're going to read this and you're going to write their name in there. It'll say, I, John Doe, do hereby acknowledge the wholesaler has disclosed that the wholesaler has entered into an assignable contract for the purchase of my property. I am not entitled to any profit from the sale or assignment of the assignable contract unless specifically stated in a contract. This is an addendum to the agency disclosure. And the only time we use this addendum is if it's a wholesale transaction. Failure to have the addendum in there is a separate license law violation. Okay, so keep that in mind. And then the third and final form that you must present to the property owner is the next form there, property owner's consent to market and advertise. The property owner must sign this. Now, the two previous forms, the agency disclosure and the addendum, if they refuse to sign it, then you just make a notation that they refuse to sign it and date and time, and that's it. Okay. This one has to be signed, or otherwise you cannot market the property. You have to have the owner's consent. You as the listing agent or listing broker, you have to have consent from the property owner to be able to market details of that property. So what's that? So anyways, those are the big changes that you as a listing agent, when you go to sign up or do the listing with a wholesaler to list this equitable title in a contract, those are required. I get this call a lot from wholesalers. Well, why does my property owner have to sign the property owner's consent to market and advertise? Because in the purchase agreement between the wholesaler and the property owner is already given permission to do marketing, hire an agent to do the marketing and all that. And the reason is because the real estate broker is not party to that. And therefore there has to be a separate, distinct, under regulation, a contractor or this disclosure or this permission slip to market the details of the property owner's house. So how's everybody doing? We good? Is
it possible to have this written into the price?
Into what?
So you said there's going to be an agreement between the wholesaler and the property owner that they are allowed to. Can you do the questions on?
Oh, what's that?
Can you do the?
You know what? Hang on to that.
Can you do the questions on the microphone so that the people?
You know what?
online can hear
I'm
too?
gonna get through this and
Okay.
then, but you'll be first one. You'll be the first one, I promise. So sorry about that. Ted told me to make sure that happened. All right. So we got through the disclosures, agency disclosures. If you would go back to the first page, and now we're on the second page of the check sheet here. One last possible agency disclosure we need to talk about. If you're the listing agent, and let's say you have an open house and you procure the buyer, then not only, as you know, you have to do the agency disclosure, but you also have to have that end buyer. They have to also sign a addendum to that agency disclosure, that assignable addendum, because there's a section on there for them to complete as well. Same rules apply. If the buyer refuses to sign it, you just have them, you just mark the notation of the date and time it was presented and then just say that they did not sign it. One thing you're going to have to make sure, agents, if you go back to page 1, the diagram there, if you're the listing agent and you procure that end buyer, which is the assignee, obviously you represent the wholesaler. They are your client. If you were to come across and procure the buyer, you have to know what your individual broker agency policy is. Is that end buyer going to be a customer or a client? And if they're a client, then you have to do dual agency. My recommendation personally, from a risk management point of view, I would not represent anybody other than the wholesaler and treat the buyer as a customer for liability reasons. But that's going to be up to you and your broker to figure that one out. All right, so we've gotten through all of the agency. Now we are at B on page 2 of the checklist. It says purchase agreement here. And then I wrote purchase agreement between the wholesaler and the property owner. We need to have that as agents and brokers. We need to have a copy of that purchase agreement. And here's the reason why. There's 2 reasons, actually. Number 1, you have a duty as a licensee to read through that purchase agreement to make sure that it's legally binding in the state of Nebraska. Since wholesaling really started, as the director of Randall School, I'm kind of like the disinterested third party. When somebody has a question and they don't want anybody to know, they call me. And I started collecting these wholesale packets and contracts. And I have about 100, I think 160 or 70 of them now that I've collected over the last couple of years. And I will tell you that probably close to 50% don't even meet the purchase agreements now between the wholesaler and the property owner. They don't meet the essential elements required in Nebraska for a valid contract. So for example, a lot of times the postal address is in the contract, but there's no legal description. In the state of Nebraska, you have to have a legal description, otherwise it's an invalid contract. And the reason I say that is if you get audit, well, let's back up here. When is an issue an issue? Only when it's an issue. And once a lawsuit is filed and everybody wants a pound of flesh, then they're going to start looking at all the details and they're going to go, Ted, you listed this property and the only way we could establish equitable title is through the purchase contract. And this was an invalid purchase contract. So therefore you did an illegal listing. It'd be equivalent to signing a listing contract with somebody to sell 123 Main Street and they're not the actual owner. It's the same equivalency. So agents, you have to have a copy of the purchase agreement for number 1 to ensure that it's a valid contract. If it's not, then you have a duty and obligation to tell the wholesaler that it's not a valid contract. And then the wholesaler can go back to the property owner to do some addendums to it to make it enforceable and legal and valid. The second reason is it's an assignment contract ultimately that you're going to enter into with the end buyer or the assignee. And what are they assigning? What's the wholesaler transferring to the end buyer? The terms and conditions of that original purchase contract. So any potential buyer has to have that available before they enter into that contract to make sure they know what they're assuming. I would tell you that from you agents, you're going to, when the MLS, well, when and if the MLS allow these, it'd be an associated doc almost. So we need to have that from a broker perspective. We got to have that in the file. That's been another area where I've heard a lot of wholesalers that they have some issues with. Let's look at letter C, seller property condition disclosure statement and lead-based paint disclosures. Now I've put copies of what those forms are. There's in your packet, there's the lead-based paint disclosure. That's required for any home built prior to 1978 and the seller property condition disclosure. 2 things have to happen. When the wholesaler and the property owner enter into a purchase contract, the seller, under state statute, must complete this seller property condition disclosure and also the lead-based paint disclosure if it's built prior to 1978. Not 1978, prior, 1977 and older. That's the first set of documents. That's required. Then when the the contract is listed with the wholesaler and an end buyer is found, then a second set of disclosures, seller property condition disclosure and the lead-based paint disclosure, has to be signed with the property owner and the end buyer. You cannot use the one that the wholesaler signed as the buyer. And you cannot put all 3 parties on the same disclosure. If you do, the EPA, I talked to an EPA auditor about that. He said he considers that 2 separate transactions pre-78, and then everybody involved in the transaction is going to get nailed with a notice of violation. So there's a lot of work to do here. There's 2 sets of disclosures. The seller disclosure, property condition disclosure, the lead-based paint. There has to be a set between the wholesaler and the property owner. That's one. And then when an end buyer is found, The second set has to be between the property owner and the end buyer. Now, real estate agents, you really don't need a copy of the first set legally between the property owner and the wholesaler. You only need the second set between the owner and the end buyer. However, from a risk management point of view, if you're a designated broker, I recommend that you don't do these listings unless you get a copy of those original disclosures from a risk management point of view. What we are seeing is the first set of disclosures between the property owner and the wholesaler. They're pretty much, I don't know. They'll say certain things or no, they'll actually say, the roof leaks and the foundation is bad and all of this. And then the second set, everything is good. And then when the end buyer moves in and they discover that the foundation is leaking and the roof is leaking, they start suing people, and it's called enjoinder. Everybody gets sued, and then they find that original set of disclosures, and that's when things get ugly. Again, legally, you don't need the first set for your file and auditing purposes. You only need the second set, but from a risk management point of view, you may want to include that in there. And definitely watch the lead-based paint thing. I get a lot of wholesalers that'll call the school and say, wholesaling is exempt from lead-based paint disclosures, and it's not. Nice try. So actually, nothing is exempt from it. Let's look at D. This one's going to hurt. The rules and regulations. Let's look at the first bullet point. It says important. I'm on page 3 of the check sheet or the checklist. All advertising and marketing must clearly state, and this is in quotes, this comes directly from license law, an assignable contract of real property is being marketed. So what that means is any form of communication relaying anything about the equitable title in that contract, including if you're just texting somebody how many bedrooms and bathrooms it is, the house is, this sentence must be included. That's every text, that's every email, that's every flyer that you do, every social media post. If you're going to put a post on the REIA Facebook group and it's a wholesale, then this must be in there. And if you don't, then you're actually putting the REIA Facebook group in potential violation. If you have word of mouth, then you have to also make sure that they know that they're buying or this is an assignable contract. The next obvious question was, how in the hell do we get this on a for sale sign? Because I know folk, Ruben or some of you others, you might want to put a for sale sign. You don't have to have, I talked to Greg Lemon, you don't have to have the full sentence on the for sale sign, but he suggested 2 things. You have a rider. The top rider says for sale. The bottom rider says assignable contract. The general public has to reasonably ascertain that this is not legal title that they're buying, but equitable title. Okay. And then last but not least, under advertising, MLSs, the multiple listing service. As of right now, the Great Plains multiple listing service, which is Omaha Lincoln, these type of transactions are not allowed to be in there. But the board is going to meet, I think, later this month, and I'm pretty sure at some point they're going to make it make it lawful to put them in there. In that case, this sentence will have to be in the public remarks of the MLS. And then if you look on the third page there, it says pending side. This is when we find that end buyer, that assignee. What do you need for documentation? It's pretty much everything that we've already talked about. The file's going to need. I do want to, and I'll let you guys read through there, but I do want to point out one thing. The other thing that I forgot is another common myth amongst the wholesaling community is not only is the lead-based paint disclosure not a requirement, it's waived for some reason. And I don't know why that is. I think I know there's a guy on YouTube that supposedly does a lot of wholesaling. He mentioned that, and I clarified this with Region 7 of the EPA down in Kansas City. It applies. Is you have to also give that pamphlet, that lead pamphlet, protect your family from lead. And if you don't, that's 2 violations. That's 2 separate violations. And right now, the notice of violation is $19,500 per violation. And the government's broke and they want money, so what are they doing? All right, and then last but not least, if you turn on to page 4 here, and this is for just the real estate agents. Once you list that equitable title for sale and you have a listing contract in play, and you're going to be out there and you're going to be marketing it and doing things like that, well, obviously there's a good chance that an outside cooperating broker or maybe another agent within your own company is going to procure the buyer. Remember, this is not in the MLS, so there is no stated payout for the cooperating side. So you're going to have to do a broker-to-broker commission agreement. If you're not in real estate, you probably won't know what that is, but for you realtors, you know what that is. So if it's going to be in another MLS like Grand Island or Columbus where they allow these, then you don't have to worry about it because the payout is advertised, but in the Great Plains, until they approve it, it is not. And the last thing I want to say, and then I'll take questions here, is be real careful with the dual contracting. If you're going to do a purchase agreement on top of a purchase agreement and not use an assignment contract, you're asking for really bad things to happen. Again, an issue is only an issue when it's an issue. And when it's an issue, these are big deals, okay? It's not just a little slap on the hand. And then the last thing is, as I said, I've included a copy of the Choice Homes versus Donner. I would suggest you download that and read it. It's kind of interesting, but that's why that requirement is there. Did I take too long, Ted? I threw a lot at you guys. I know. Having said that, I promised I would come back when the final rules were written. So we're going to open it up to questions, and I promised this young man right up here that he would be first. So if you would, start a line right here with the microphone, because the folks online want to be able to hear, and that's the only way that they can hear. And if you would, please tell me your first name.
The mic's not on. There we go.
There we go.
All right. So basically just reading through this, understanding that the goal is to create significantly greater transparency in wholesale deals. Understanding that there is a marketing agreement between the wholesaler and the property owner. Can we write in the real estate agent's marketing rights into the first agreement?
Can you? I would say possibly, depending on, number one, how it's worded. And number two, it'd have to give direct permission for XYZ real estate broker to do this. And the broker or their agent who's going to be listing it has to be a party to it. So they would have to sign that document. I would not put it in the purchase agreement, though. And the reason is when that assignee goes to get financing, we're starting to see some underwriting issues with those kind of things. The lenders are really skeptical of these deals in the first place. When it gets to underwriting, it can create a lot of problems.
Got you. So then also talking about what makes a contract legal, what are the items that we need to have for it to be a legal contract?
Sure. So the basics is you got to have identification of the parties. In this case, the buyer and seller, and not just one, all of them. So if this is an estate sale and there's not a will, for example, that it specifically states who the personal representative is, and there's 5 siblings, it's the 5 siblings plus their spouses and potentially their ex-spouses, depending on when the death happened. So it's not one, it's all, okay? That's the first thing. The parties are the first thing. It has to have the legal description. Now, the postal address can be optional. It doesn't have to be in there, but the legal description has to be in there. There has to be legality of the object, meaning it's for a lawful purpose, which it is. It has to have competent parties. Usually, most real estate agents, they kind of get they go through training, and you can kind of tell if there's some issues there. We typically see this with the elderly, if you're working with an elderly, whether or not they're all there, but they have to be legally competent. And then the last one is there has to be consideration, even if it's $1, so that usually is the purchase price. And then the parties to the contract have to sign it. All parties have to sign it. Again, if it's an estate sale, then as wholesalers, you want to find out who has the authority to sign, because most of the time there is a will and there's an executor, but it can get because of the structure of a wholesale transaction, a lot of times we'll see one of the siblings file suit, what we call lis pendens, to kind of gum it up. But those are the essential ones. And I will tell you, most of the time it's minor things. Like I had one wholesaler call up and I was like, you got to have the legal description. And he's like, what's a legal description? Well, you don't know what legal description is, maybe learn first, you know? So anyways, that's the basics. But I've seen all kinds. Oh, one other thing in Nebraska, you have to have a closing date. That's the other thing. Not be to be determined or in 30 days. Now, I want to bring this up because this is where it's going to be problematic for agents. And I didn't have it on here, and this kind of tripped my memory here. Agents, you have a fiduciary duty to your seller, but you also have to, under statute, disclose adverse material facts, which includes the wholesaler's ability to close on the property. So if you're working with a wholesaler and you know they can't close on the property, then you have to disclose that if it's germane to the transaction. Now, typically we see this on the property owner. That's why you cannot represent the property owner in the transaction. Because if you represent the property owner and the wholesaler and you know that the wholesaler does not have the means to close, they don't have the finances, you would have to disclose that. You don't have to disclose it to the end buyer because it's an assignment of contract. But if you do the dual contracting, that could potentially rise to a disclosurable situation. So a little sidebar from yours. Yes.
My name is Lisa Kraus with Square One Property Solutions. When you talk about contract on contract, can you, if you are planning on doing a double close, does that still mean that the contract on contract is illegal with the different purchase prices?
That's a great question. And if you're going to actually close on the property, then you can do that because you have legal title and not equitable interest. One thing I would caution, because I get a lot of wholesalers that say, well, I'm going to do a double closing, so I'm exempted. And my answer is maybe. The question is, what are you doing to market that equitable interest between contract and closing? So if you enter into the contract, a purchase agreement with that property owner, 2 weeks later, you close on the property and you've done no marketing whatsoever during that period, that's legal because you're not marketing. You close on the property, then you market the property for sale. You're marketing your legal title, not equitable title. In fact, you don't even have to hire a real estate agent at that point because you would fall under the for sale by owner exemption. So the double bubble, it all depends on what you're doing in that period between contract to close, whether or not it would be applicable here. But at that point, you would be able to then do a second contract because the old contract would be dead at closing. Make sense? Yes, sir.
Good evening, Paul. My name is Walt, and I'm with Coastal Management Group. I'm a North Carolina real estate broker, and but I don't do any retail real estate. I have my own LLC for the property side of the house. My question is it possible for me as an individual to get my Nebraska real estate broker license and represent myself as an individual as the broker, and then likewise represent myself under the LLC, or as the Nebraska broker, do I have to be tucked up underneath like a Keller Williams?
No, you could be your own broker.
Okay.
Yeah, you could be a designated broker as long as once you get your license, your broker's license, then you go to designated broker course, but you could certainly do that.
Okay, thanks.
One thing I would tell you for those of you that are agents doing wholesaling yourself, obviously, if you look at the diagram on page 1, this doesn't change. You go out, you procure the contract with the property owner, and then you sign a listing contract to represent yourself in the marketing of your equitable title. I know when I was here last time, one of the things that we thought was going to happen when the rules and regulations came out, and that was that you either had to list the property with a broker or be a licensed agent yourself. They debated that and finally removed it. You have to list it with a broker. So obviously, all the agents in here are either you're a designated broker or you work for a designated broker. So how this would look is you would be the wholesaler and the listing agent. The only difference between the two scenarios is, remember, you still have to make that disclosure to the property owner that you're a licensed real estate agent in Nebraska, and also that end buyer. You would also have to make the disclosure. That's the only difference if you're one and the same.
Do any of these rules come to play with, there's a lot of groups out there that say, hey, we buy houses for cash, and they'll somebody go out and talk to them on their behalf, get them to list or sell their house to them. And then generally they're either holding it or they're going to do what they call a wholesale. Wholesale being that maybe they're going to just clean it out and throw it on MLS. Is there some disclosures that need to happen if your intention is to close it, do a minor rehab, if any at all, and then just put it back on the market for a profit?
No, because again, the only thing that the law governs is the marketing aspect. And if that company is going to buy the property and close on it, and then clean it up or flip it and then sell it, none of this applies. However, if they get it under contract and they're going to clean it up and then sell it to somebody else, and they want to start marketing for a buyer before they actually close, then it would fall under the wholesaling rules and regulations.
Hey, Paul, Justin. How does this change if, for instance, a property is in a trust and you're the beneficiary of the trust because the title is not necessarily in the beneficiary's name?
Right. And you are which party?
Beneficiary, but not on title.
I understand, but I mean, are you the property owner, the wholesaler, or the end buyer here?
Okay. I would be either the wholesaler or the owner.
Okay, so I
guess that's the question, right? Like, where are you in this? So someone's got a property in a trust.
right.
You purchase the beneficial interest in the trust. You
Sure.
become the beneficiary.
It's
Title
no
doesn't
different.
change.
So let's say you're the wholesaler and you find a property, but the property's owned by a trust. Would that be a good scenario?
Yeah.
So what would happen in that case? I mean, we deal with this all the time when we're just selling it outright and it's not an equitable interest. The trustee or the authorized representative for that trust would be the one that would sign. And the other thing is, a trust, if a property is held in trust, it's exempt from the seller property condition disclosure, but not the lead-based paint. There is an exemption form that the realtor should be able to dig up, but no, the same rules would apply.
Okay.
Hey, Paul.
Hello.
Ryan with Realty One. So on a bandit sign, that says we buy houses.
Right.
Do I have to have, let's say, well, I'm licensed. Do I have to have my brokers? Like, how does that work?
So technically, you're required to have agent. Well, yeah, you would technically have to have on the sign, because it's a form of marketing, licensed agent.
Do I have to have their name on it?
If their name their name has to be on there. Yeah.
Okay.
Now, I want to be very clear here on something. Is there a double standard in the industry? Yes, there is. We see for sale signs all the time where it's the agent that owns it and it's for sale. They even have their company sign, but there's nowhere on that sign that says agent owned or agent licensee or anything where the general public can reasonably infer. It happens every day, all day, numerous times, and no one ever says anything. The problem here is, I believe personally, they're looking for any excuse to nail wholesalers. I just do. And if they can get a technicality, they're going to do it. And that's why I wanted to bring up with the sign.
Thanks.
How you doing, Bud? Adam with Lutech Property Management. Is there a loophole possible that if I buy the property, put it in an LLC, and then sell the LLC and its entities, do these rules still apply?
That's a great question, and I don't know, it's not specifically addressed, and I don't know if the real estate commissioner, how they would rule on that. There's no case of first impression with it.
Because it'd be the sale of a business, not the sale
Correct.
of real estate.
And so what you're doing is the equitable interest is an asset of the LLC, and you would list the asset in the purchase contract. And I would say, me personally, I would think you'd probably have a good argument. Understand this, though, the real estate commission, the current members that are on the commission, many of them just wanted to outlaw it, period. So they're not friendly. They're nice people, but they're not friendly towards this. In case I ever come in front of the commission, you're all friendly. But that might be a loophole, but here's the deal when it comes to loopholes. Who wants to be the first one to spend $100,000 to take it to the Nebraska Supreme Court to get a precedent set? Because I will tell you, the commission more than likely will take it all the way with this. Just for the public perception of it all. So, anybody else?
How you pull this thing down, Ted? So I'm not a realtor, I'm not a wholesaler, but I am an investor. And my biggest beef in all of this, I find deals off market. On 2 separate occasions, I had properties that I have a pretty good relationship with some banks, so I'm able to work with people that are having issues. And 2 times, wholesalers got to these people, put the property under contract, which I wouldn't have a problem with if they followed through. Case number 1, we'll buy your house for X amount of dollars. We'll close, we'll let you live here for 6 months. I'm not going to say any names, but I am going to say this guy's a dirtbag. He literally didn't close on the house, but because it was under contract, I couldn't help them. So
Right.
they got evicted. They lost their everything. 80-some-year-old lady, 17-year-old kid that's going to graduate. It was a heartbreaking thing for me because I didn't know, short of calling the police or shooting them myself.
Might want to bleep that one out.
Hypothetically, I forgot my
There we go.
hypotheticals.
Allegedly.
Yeah, allegedly. Anyway, what do you do in a case like that?
That's a great question. And I will tell you, I get this call once a week. I do at the school. And there's really not anything that can be done unless the wholesaler that's under contract with the property owner is marketing it and it's not listed, where you could turn them in for a license law violation. There ain't really much that can be done. And you bring up a really good point. I got to be honest with you. I've kind of changed my tune a little bit on wholesaling. When this all first started, the appearance is it's very predatory, right? That's the appearance. And in many cases, like your example, it is very predatory. And there were certainly big companies outstate that were coming in and they were being predatory. But I have this stack of contracts. And so I decided to start calling some of the property owners. And I was honest who I was. And I just, why do you want to do this? Because I really wanted to know. And I will tell you, I called 47. And about half of them were women. And it was very interesting. And it's a small sample, but it was like, yeah, here was a couple scenarios. The first scenario was, yeah, my cheating bastard husband, I got the house, but I got to refinance in a year. And then he gets $200,000 equity. Sure, I get 200 grand equity too, but I got to give him $200,000 so him and his new girlfriend that's 25 years younger can go to Mexico. I would rather give it all away. No kidding. I had a lot of that. Hell, what's the saying? Hell knoweth no fury like a woman scorned. Pretty sure that's true. And then I had a lot of other ones where it was an estate deal. And, I talked to one. There was 5 siblings, 4 lived out of state, and they did nothing to help out their parents. It was one sibling here. Then when mom and dad dies, now all of a sudden they're showing up to claim their bidding. And the executor of the state was like, screw them. They're not getting a dime. I'm not getting a dime, neither are they. And so it was way more than I anticipated. Certainly, there were people that were being taken advantage of as well. They were led to believe certain things that was going to happen that never did. So it's a mixed bag. So I'm not totally down on it. I was at one point. But like anything else, I think there's a place for wholesaling. I think it's a viable option. It's a free country. If the lady wants to give $300,000 of equity away and she knows she is, then have at it. It's free country. So that's kind of my personal side of it. So just want to get out of here. I don't have a bulletproof vest on, so. Any other questions? Ruben, you got anything? Come on up to the mic.
I was going to say, without calling anybody out, we'd love to get some wholesalers up here if you're here, and kind of talk this through, because if you got some other, we'd like to hear both sides of this. So
Sure.
I'm Ruben with Nebraska Realty.
By the way, congratulations on the addition to the family.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. So obviously there is a few new documents in this package than what we got about 6 months ago when you were here first. So is there like a timeline where the commission knows that we're going to enforce these full time now, that people know, or at least they had the chance to hear you speak at the REIA, which all wholesalers and investors look after? That's pretty much the question. It's like, is there like a line where now this is the new way to do it?
Yeah, it was the third Thursday in February is when it all became official. Having said that, I will tell you this, full disclosure, I know Ruben, and he's one of them that really tried to do it the right way, document everything and all of that. And, someone like you would have a good case. So should somebody file a complaint, or maybe the audit reveal something and then a complaint is filed, you would have the documentation to lay out, say, listen, I tried to do the right thing. Here was, I did this, and this, and then I went to this REIA conference and they showed us, and then you have an established history after that point. They're not totally heartless, but you have a chain of title, if you will, with all of that. So right now, this is the packet. So if you're a licensed agent, you got your checklist, everything you need right here next to, other than the assignment contract and the listing contract, which is proprietary to individual companies, but you got everything right here that you need.
Thank you.
My name is JB with Timber Creek Home Solutions. My question is, you'd mentioned that there's a couple forms that need to be presented to the actual owner of the property by the agent.
Right.
What's the definition of providing that? Can that be sent via email, or does it have to be in person, or what?
That's a great question. And no, you have to have some kind of documented communication with the property owner. Can it be through DocuSign and things like that? Absolutely. Can you have these electronically signed? Absolutely. It just says you have to present them. And then there's a reasonable time and all of that. Now, I would probably tell you this, and this is just my opinion. If you try to present it and they don't respond, that creates an issue. A lot of times when you do it, it gets thrown in their junk or whatever. I would at least want to have, as an agent, a verbal communication, whether that's in person or on the telephone, with the property owner. It just to say, hey, this is who I am. I have to offer you these things. They're not a contract. Explain what they are, and then I'm going to send it over via DocuSign or email or whatever. They're going to say, great, send it over, or they're going to tell you to piss off, and then what you do is send it over anyways. And then you have, and why I like DocuSign and dot loop and all of that is it has a date time stamp, so then you can prove when you tried to present it. So I think if you get verbal with the property owner, at least try, it makes the rest of the transaction go smoother if the property owner is going to be cooperative in the first place. Did that answer the question? Okay.
So we got a lot of investment real estate agents in the room, and I just want to put a little more clarification on this.
Sure.
Because I think that this is going to become a lot. So let's say you're an investment agent and they get a deal through a wholesaler, and they're going to review the contracts. Obviously, they got their paperwork they're going to do, but they have a client that is looking for that specific type of property, and they want to put the two together. and that client is going to pay their commissions.
Right.
So they're going to sign agency with that client and do everything like a traditional contract.
Yes.
And just move forward with it. But as long as they're filling out everything in that packet included, they're going to be legal and fine.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool.
Sorry, same Mike. I want to touch on something. So example number 2 is a wholesaler offers a person $110,000 for a house. The homeowner says, well, we're probably going to go with this realtor who is a super bat special, wonderful realtor. And don't get me wrong, I'm not against wholesalers and I'm not against realtors. I've never used a wholesaler, but so in this case, the realtor offered them $115,000. And I said, look, this is your dad's house. Don't sell it to me, but get the advice of somebody. And I gave them 3 realtor names. Let them choose. So they had a couple come out there. And one thing that they were very adamant about is, look, this house doesn't need work, but they were willing to give them $20,000 more, not 5 or, they gave them a reasonable amount more, which, it's one person's rehab is exponentially different possibly than another's. But the market value, I own a house down the street that was substantially less that I just bought versus the one that was rehabbed a block and a half away that was a lot more. So, I feel like we're all guided by some sort of moral compass. Nobody's perfect, but we can say what's legal and not legal here in our contracts. But at what point do you hold some of this particular realtor, and I haven't mentioned names to anybody, but at what point, I actually told him, I said, look, dude, these people were offered a lot more. It's worth a lot more. I'm not asking for anything. I don't get anything from them. So, somebody could say, Mike, it's none of your business. Go sit down and shut up. And that I can do that. And this might upset somebody, but the Bible says to speak for those who can't.
Sure.
Now, these people can, but they don't know jack squat. So
I will tell you this, if the investor is a licensed agent, under license law, they have a duty to be honest. They cannot mislead or be deceptive, including in market value, including if it's not listed and they're buying it for themselves. We always preach this in license law class, and that is if you're going to be buying your own property and you're a licensed agent, you should always in writing reveal what the market value is, have a CMA in the file, in your file, to back those numbers up, and then go to the owner and say, listen, I'm going to, it's worth, market value is 120. I'm going to give you 50,000 and here's why. If the owner takes it, they have every right to take it because they're doing it under the precipice that they were told the correct market value. If the agent is found to be untruthful or misleading, then they can be held accountable with the real estate commission. And it has happened. I've seen it several times over my 25 years of doing this where it's happened. That's why I always tell agents when I train agents or we have license law classes, document your offer and make sure that you let them know. In fact, it used to be, it's not as bad as it used to be, but there were times when, depending on the type of property it was and et cetera, we would actually recommend that they get an appraisal done or have another agent pay them to do a broker price opinion. That just adds another layer of liability. But yeah, if the agent is misleading or untruthful, anybody can file a complaint against the agent with the real estate commission. Yes, sir.
Doug Legg with Nebraska Realty. With the lead disclosure requirement to be signed, do you see the same kind of signature requirement for radon or carbon monoxide detectors coming down the line?
I don't. It's already required in new construction, but at least there's nothing that I'm seeing on the horizon. Now, I will tell you that every year, it's like a box of chocolates at the legislature. You never know what's going to happen, and it can be thrown in at any given time, but I just haven't seen it. And a lot of it has to do with no state aid. Listen, there's no state senator that's just going to do it. They have to be bribed to do it. And usually we see these things happen as a result of a nonprofit that's influential to recommend these things. And there were several things that they were going to try to do this year, but then the whole trans issue happened with the filibuster and everything, and nothing got done. So no, to answer, short answer, no, I don't see it.
And then did I hear you correctly saying that we could get 8 hours of continuing ed for coming tonight?
Yeah, nice try. It is in the process of getting approved for 3 hours, but I'll be curious to know if they actually make this an art class or not. So, anybody else? I feel like this time it was a little more friendly, Ted. Yes.
Hi, my name's Kaylin. I have a quick question. I know Nebraska is one of the few states in America that allow for net listings. How would a wholesale differ from a net listing, and why is it not considered one?
So, boy, because they're two different contracts. The wholesale is the purchase agreement and then an assignment contract assigning all the terms and conditions of the purchase contract to an end buyer, and a listing contract is an employment contract to perform a service, which is market the property and sell it. And I will tell you, listing contracts, I don't know of any broker, and I travel the state every year a lot doing continuing ed, and I don't know one broker that will allow a net listing. They are dangerous. In fact, I think we're one of 6 states now, maybe 7, that actually they're still legal. Did that answer your question? Yeah. Okay.
So what happened in Iowa? Like, what will this play out like in Iowa? Like, if we have a property that we want to market?
I have no idea about Iowa.
Yeah, you have no clue. Yeah.
I can barely keep things straight in Nebraska. Adding a whole different state. Is it still, I know it's still legal, but I don't know if they passed any. So it's free, it's fair game. There you go. Anybody else? You know, I'd say the next person that comes up would have gotten the free book, but somebody forgot it. They're about 20 years out of date. That it? Anybody? Going once? Twice? 3 times? Well, thank you, everybody. I appreciate it. Real quick, if you have any questions or you would like this in Word format for your company or whatever, please give me drop me an email. My email address is just paul@Randall School, RANDALL, randallschool.com, paul@randallschool.com. And I'll email it to you, whatever you need. Just let me know.
And Paul, what we can do too is if you send that to me, we can create a link and put that on the YouTube for this too.
Sure.
So,
and by the way, if you have a cell phone, please go to REIA Omaha Facebook page and subscribe. If you have a Gmail account, that'd be great.
yeah, and shout out your YouTube channel too, please.
I have 2. The Real Estate Classroom, that's for people that are trying to get their license. It's pre-licensing, just exam prep stuff. And then I have another one, Nebraska Landlord. So if you're a landlord or property manager, I drop all kinds of helpful information. In fact, there's a new video coming out tomorrow. There was a landlord in Hastings. It just came out on the line that they got fined $24,579 for screwing up the lead-based paint disclosure. A couple of them. So, and we're pretty sure, don't know for sure, we're pretty sure, what we're seeing now is, you know, a lot of towns and municipalities, they don't have code enforcement and they really have no real way to deal with slumlords. And we're across the country, we're seeing municipalities calling the enforcement office of the regional EPA office to do their bidding. And so the EPA will come out and do what a city normally does. And there's some conjecture that that's what happened here. So anyways, there we go.
And there's 3 videos that he put on this specific topic on his YouTube channel.
Not mine. Randall School has a YouTube channel, and I have 3 videos that covers all of this in detail if you fell asleep. Because I do have a tendency to put people to sleep. Randall School YouTube channel, it's all right there. Thanks, Ted.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for everything, man. Appreciate it. Big round of applause. Awesome. Yeah, you're good. Awesome. Thank you so much. I mean, that content was invaluable, man. A couple things I want to do to conclude for today. First off, if you are a first-time person, a visitor, or a new member, can you raise your hand so we know who you are? A big group of you. So thank you guys for coming. A couple things that we'd like to do so you know who's around you, so you know what's going on afterwards too. It's good to know what we all do. So if raise your hand tall and be proud of us. But if you do storage units, can you guys raise your hands up? Anybody does storage units? 2 hands over there. What about people that do commercial properties? Anybody do commercial? Okay. And what about people that do traditional rental houses? Anybody have traditional rentals? Where's our multifamily owners? Anybody got multifamilies? What about ag land? Anybody invest in ag land? There you go, a couple of you guys. I never asked that one before, have I? How about trailer parks? Any trailer park investors? I know there's only like, what's that? Well, I got to change that on here. I always get in trouble for that. Sorry. I know. I got to work on my social stuff. What about Airbnbs? Anybody do Airbnbs? How about midterm rentals? Anybody do midterms? How about like the Oxford homes? What do we call that? Transitional housing? Anybody doing transitional housing? What am I missing? Is there anything that you guys that's unique that I haven't mentioned? What's that? Contractors? Yeah, where's the contractors in the room? Any contractors? Oh, I see one hand. Any contractors looking for business? Where's our insurance agents in the room? Any insurance agents in here? There's one. How about investment real estate agents? Any investment real estate agents? These are good people to know. Get to know them around you because they're doing it. Wholesalers. Yeah, any wholesalers that are willing to raise their hand? Yeah, there we go. How did I not? I know there's more of you in here. I know for a fact. Okay, so hey, these are the people in the room. The reason we do this is so you know who to talk to. Even those experienced people, maybe we want to get into some storage units like Timber Creek over here, or maybe we want to get into ag. And so these are the people that we want to ask those questions. Brad, you getting on the mic? You have something to say? So you reach out to them. Also, if you are looking for something in your business, maybe you're looking for a property, maybe you're a wholesaler and you have a property to sell. That'd be a fun one tonight. And that's what this mic is for. You guys got a few minutes here. If you just want to do a shout out for your business, shout out for anything, a thank you to another member, this is the chance. There we go. I see a couple people.
Hey gang, Al Nelson with Trustworthy Title and Escrow. This is a shout out to the realtors. I'm doing a lunch and learn tomorrow. I'll be presenting on easy cost sheets. I'm working with a loan officer with Guild Mortgage, Holly Lombardo, and she's going to be presenting on HomeBot. If you want to come, you have to come see me tonight so we know how to plan for lunch. It's from 11 to 12 at the Enterprise Center, 96 and L. Come see me. Thanks.
Lisa Wisgrowen, Property Solutions again. I was wondering if I could maybe get a show of hands of those that might still be interested if we do another property bus tour. Brad with Timberland Creek, we usually do that, and we didn't do it in the spring. I was wondering who might be.
Can you describe what it is?
The property bus tour, we get a party bus and we rent it. We usually provide the alcohol, but we have
and not a school bus. It's a VIP limo bus.
It is a VIP. It is a limo party bus. Okay. We're not in a school bus. But we have some local investors that we'll reach out to and see what properties that they have available at the time of our date. We'll try and like to have something that is in the demo stage, something that might be in the rehab stage, something that's finished, something that's unique, apartments. I think we even had a castle, didn't we? I don't know if they're here. But we make it a learning experience. We have the investors provide the numbers, what they bought it for, what they're rehabbing for, what their end goal is, or what their end goal has been, what their profit is, what they learned from it, what they took away from it, any advice that they have for anyone else that is looking, and network and have fun. So that's what it is. We usually do it twice a year, once in the spring and once in the fall. Apparently, they're ready for it again.
Will the details come out on that? When will the details be out so people can sign up?
Yeah, as soon as Brad and I talk about it again.
Okay, cool. There we go.
We'll get you guys a date. We just try in the fall. We try and make sure that does not interfere with any Oscar football, but we usually do it on a Friday. So we'll figure out a date and
It's always fun.
we'll keep you posted.
Good evening. I'm Walt. In addition to the real estate side, I'm an admissions counselor for the Naval Academy. Naval Academy is one of the best engineering schools in the country. We're always looking for great candidates with a strong background in math or science for a challenge and opportunity of a lifetime. Every year we award 1,200 four-year full ride guaranteed on day one scholarships. And we start looking from rising ninth graders up to 23. Thanks.
Ryan Miller. I recently took over the rookie REIA, so I've done two of them. Justin and Jose have done one each. This month we are doing it August 23rd. We don't have an address yet, but it'll be Clint Bartlett that's gonna be heading up the walkthrough of a property that he's doing. Clint's done hundreds of flips. Normally here, he's I think out of town right now, but be a good experience for everybody to get there, learn, see how he acquires them, see his process for flipping, and ask questions. It's normally a little smaller group, so if you're a new investor or just want to get out and network and help out new investors, it's a good opportunity. It just ask questions and kind of learn different processes. So once again, it's August 23rd. It's both on the rookie REIA page and the main REIA page. So just keep an eye out for that.
Well, what a cool thing that you do too is it's kind of like the property bus tour, but you showcase one property and you bring the owners in, and sometimes you even bring the contractors in to discuss what the process too, right?
Yeah, so it's whatever the contractor or the flipper feels, obviously we don't want them to give up their only contractor or whatever, but sometimes it's, the tradespeople can be there. It's just open to whatever. And like I said, it's a time to ask questions, ask about contractors, ask questions that you might not.
There's no stupid question.
Yeah, there's no stupid questions. It's a I hate the word safe zone, but it's a safe zone. So it's just opportunity to get out and ask questions. So everybody has to start somewhere. So this is that opportunity.
And one cool thing, I know that when you did the last one, Jose and I attended it, he got really in depth with the numbers, his intentions, what he even got talking about that neighborhood, how many properties he did in that neighborhood. And then he talked about the timeline and when he pulls guys off and why he pulls guys off to go on other properties. We got really deep for probably about 20, 30 minutes just on financing and the banks that everybody uses and what kind of financing options are out there.
Yeah, I got Ted talked about financing, hard money, refinancing out of hard money. So I got a short video I'll probably be releasing here soon. I'll try to put on the REIA pages and stuff. But it's just stuff like that that people might not think of, and the opportunity to ask those questions, ask about hard money. People might not even know what hard money is. They might not know what private money is, and just gives that opportunity to ask those questions. So come out August 23rd, location to be determined.
Awesome. Thanks for doing that. Ooh, you getting applause, Ryan?
All right. So want to share a win because everybody here has been absolutely amazing since I've been coming around. Finally got my first property, and I will be closing on that next week. I thought it would be Friday, but I went to Clint's class this morning, actually, and he asked some really great questions that I did not have any answers to. So we pushed closing back a few days. But looking for somebody that has experience down in Lincoln, specifically dealing with, I guess, rental issues. We have some electrical things that need to be taken care of. Very, very old tenants that have been there far too long, probably going to have to deal with an eviction, and 17,000 other things that come with buying your first property. So probably need some assistance on those things if anybody is familiar with the area. And then also an offer. I own an operations consulting company. I build out dashboards and operations, just general efficiency things, specifically looking to work with another flipper. If you have flipped at least 5, that's kind of the bare minimum. If you have flipped at least 5 properties and you are looking to streamline your operations, looking to work with someone to build out a dashboard, it'll be completely free. The only thing that I ask of you is to have flipped at least 5 and you know how to communicate, because that makes it easier for me to build these things for you. So thanks, y'all.
Awesome. Congratulations. Real quick to expand on that. The Clint Bartlett's been brought up twice now. He spoke here quite a few times. If you don't know who Clint is, he's bought, I think, about 250 houses in the last 5 years. But he has a class he does for Elite Real Estate Systems, which is part of KW Elite. And he does the class every single week. It's 11:15 till noon, and off 180th and Dodge. If you are a member of this organization, you can attend that class for free. And so it's a partnership that we made with Jeff Cohn and Elite Real Estate Systems. And so if you're a member, it's 11:15. It's every Tuesday. The live cast can only be watched by the members. I think the members pay like $1,000 a month to be part of that. And so this is a service that you can take advantage of. I am at most of those events, and I highly recommend it. You get tons of information, and he literally opens the books and says, "This is my numbers. This is the property I'm buying, and here's the 30 properties I'm bidding on." And he gets into depth on every aspect of his business, and there's no questions off the table. So I would highly recommend it if it's something that you're looking into, is buying lots of houses legally. Marty? Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah.
Good guy. Hi, I know I spoke earlier. Marty McGuire, Blackstone Insurance Group. I specialize in working with real estate investors. And so I really feel for everyone right now with all the just kind of almost radical changes going on in the property insurance industry. Nebraska has just not been a profitable state for insurance for a long, long time. And that's across the board with all carriers. And so what we're starting to see now are some crazy things that insurance companies are trying to do to return their books of business to profitability. And so if you're struggling right now and you're seeing just huge, rate increases with your portfolio, I'd be happy to help. If nothing else, just provide some perspective. I do a lot of this. I work with a lot of real estate investors, whether it's short-term rentals, whether it's, flips, rehab properties, things of that nature. So if I could be of assistance, if I can be a resource to any of you, give me a shout. I'd love to help.
Cool thing that it was Paul, Marty, myself, the Foleys, and a couple other guys actually were on a panel, 2 weeks ago? Just on short-term rentals. And the amount of information, I already knew because Marty does all my insurance already, but when it comes to short-term rentals, if you even have it for one single day, a short-term rental, and you tell me if I'm wrong, Marty, but even one day as a short-term into your home and you don't have your insurance agent aware of that, and they catch that place on fire and they see that place up on Airbnb, guess what? They're not going to cover it. It's a maybe, maybe not. But it's an open door and it's a chance to get out of it. So there's specific insurance you need when you do midterm, short terms, and Marty's definitely the guy to talk to you about that.
Tyler Johnson, American Legacy Land Company. It's a new brokerage that's under the Nebraska Realty umbrella. And what we do is rec and ag ground. Some people do some development ground as well, but you mentioned it, so I wanted to throw it out there. Ag investors, anybody looking for hunting property, anything like that. We have a group that's spanning out across South Dakota, Minnesota, Iowa, Kansas, soon to be Colorado, and Nebraska. So,
Jim Endebrock with Empire Group, Nebraska. I'm an investor and realtor agent here as well. Starting something new. Online, launching yesterday online is Thank you. Camper trailer rental, Airbnb for camper trailer. So I've got one, I may have a second one here by the end of the week and available for rent, either in a space. I can drop it off and you can rent there. You can come to the picturesque place I have to set at, or you can take it on road somewhere.
So I need to add this to the categories when I do the shout outs next time.
There you go.
That's awesome. Thank you. One quick question I was going to ask, just because I know not everybody's feeling comfortable, but if you can be anybody, but if you got a property that you own, an investor lead, a wholesale lead, or anything that would make it a good investment property that you're willing to sell, or you got a client that's selling it, can you raise your hand? You don't need to tell us, just so that way somebody around you knows that you have investment properties for sale right now. There's only like 4 people in the room. I see a couple, so cool. Remember who that is, because when we go down to Burger Theory, which is right across the hallway, talk to those people, find out what they got, and then get the deals on it. I feel like you got some information for us.
We do. So save the date. We will try for September 29th. It's a Friday. We always do Fridays. So save the date, September 29th. Details to follow, providing we can get a bus for that Friday.
Okay.
So there you go.
Awesome. Thank you for putting that together. So again, first round of drinks, it'll be draws are going to be, we got more people. Okay. So you two are last. So I'm going to finish it up after this. Okay.
One quick thing, if you have a property that you'd want to showcase on the REIA, on the rookie REIA, let me know. We always look for somebody that's willing to show.
Hi, I'm Mo Albers with DVG Realty, and I know that there's quite a few new realtors in the room and also up and coming. I'm sitting with a nice group of gentlemen here. Our focus is investment properties. So if you're interested in joining or just taking a look at what DVG has to offer, we invite you in on Thursday mornings at 9:30 to join our sales meeting and come check us out. And can I mention a listing? This is the Timber Creek Home Solutions listing, and it is one of their flips. It is located at 3913 South 184th Street. If you're looking for an executive home or know of somebody that is, call Mo and say yes to the address.
Thanks, Mo. Appreciate it. Well, woo! Speaking of DVG Realty, like I said, they're going to take care of the first round of drinks or domestic draws. It's up to $100 bar tab. So thank you to the Schlickburns for taking care of that. They are our drink sponsor this week. Encourage you to take care of our amazing staff in the back. They do a lot for us. We really appreciate you guys. And if you can do me one favor today, I just asked that REIA Radio is hitting our 100, like I said, next month. I'd love to see all your faces there. But I only have 95 reviews on Apple Podcasts. So if you guys could open up your Apple Podcast app, give us a like and a written review. It'd be huge. We want to have 100 by the time we hit 100. So appreciate you guys, and we'll see you next door. Make sure you clean up after yourself if you can, and we'll be moving over the next 5 minutes. Thank you, guys. Have a good night. Thank you, Paul. Appreciate you.